Many of our projects involve new counters and backsplash, not just cabinet refinishing. If that is the case, it is your responsibility to demolish the old backsplash and counters. Try and do this step after the insides of the cabinets have been masked off to avoid getting the client's stuff covered in dust. The backsplash is demoed first before the counters, or else all the broken tile would fall into the cabinets with no counters to catch them. To remove the tiles, use a crowbar as a chisel and a hammer or mallet to hit it with. The trick is to get the crowbar in behind the tiles to pry them off, but not let the crowbar dig into the drywall itself, as we are trying to save that. In this example, the tiles are popping off relatively easily. Sometimes though, they are glued on a lot better, and you will have to break them up by hitting them with a hammer directly. If you have to do this, try and avoid making any large holes in the drywall. While demolishing the tiles, make sure you already have the floor masked off. I often will add a drop sheet under where I'm working as extra protection. Once all the tiles have been demolished and all the mess is cleaned up, we can remove the counters. Most of the time, the counters are held in place only by a couple of screws. All you need to do is remove these and the counter should lift straight out. This example of a much bigger section of counter is just the same. I go around looking for any screws underneath to remove. Sometimes some are hidden in the corners or behind the sink. There are also often two screws securing the front of the dishwasher to the bottom of the counter that need to be removed as well. Before this piece of counter can be lifted up, we need to disconnect all the plumbing. See the previous video on disconnecting plumbing to learn how to do that. With all the screws removed, the counter can again be lifted up with a couple of workers. Particle board counters, such as these ones, are pretty light and easy to lift, but stone counters are obviously a lot heavier and will require much more effort. Sometimes the counters are made of multiple pieces and can be broken apart, as seen here. When working with the counters, the most important thing is to protect the floors. This kitchen was having new floors installed, so we didn't need to, but normally I would lay moving blankets under where we are carrying the counters just in case we drop one by accident. Here we accidentally hit and broke this fragile crosspiece in front of the sink. This isn't the end of the world, but obviously try and avoid any damage. Occasionally, you will see a counter that is silicone down instead of being screwed in. In that case, you just have to do some problem solving. In this example, I hammered some crowbars underneath to serve as wedges, and then worked my way around, slowly lifting up the counter. I discovered that a bead of silicone was holding it back here underneath the mirror, so I cut along that with an X-Acto knife blade. After a bit of struggling, I noticed that this corner was jamming up against the door frame, so I broke that off, which released the counter and allowed me to wiggle it free. You will notice that there will be a lot of times on this job that you will need to apply some problem solving to get a task done, as many things are not as straightforward as they seem on paper.